This is a Hope 1032 podcast.
As followers of Jesus, in whom all things were made, we acknowledge the Darug people as the traditional custodians of the country of where this podcast is recorded. We acknowledge their continuing connection to the land and waters, and thank them for protecting this land and its ecosystems since time immemorial. We pay our respects to elders past, present and future, and we extend that respect to all First Nations peoples listening today.
There would be a flood of DMs from people, direct messages into my inbox, and not kids or teenagers. I'm talking like adults that are like, hey, my wife and I are going through a divorce right now. Could you meet with us and help us with some like couples counseling, essentially? Or other people being like, hey, my grandkid is depressed and I don't know how, as their granddad, to deal with that. Could we jump in a call and could you help me bridge that gap between young people and my generation? What do I do here, kind of thing?
I'm Georgia and welcome to Finding Hope, the podcast that reminds you of the good in the world. Each episode tells the story of someone who has found real hope in challenging times and made the world a better place. Episode 61, PastorSKAR. Reverend Kiran Skariah, better known as PastorSKAR, is an ordained pastor who spent almost a decade on staff at his church in Sydney running the youth ministry. But now he has taken that youth ministry global. Today he spends his days online gaming with a little bit of a twist. He uses his platform to tell hundreds of thousands of teens and young adults from all over the world about Jesus. It's an honour to have him on the podcast today. Kiran, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Georgia. It's an absolute pleasure.
Kiran, I got to start because I'm not a gamer myself. I think a lot of the people listening to this podcast may not be gamers. What do you love about it?
What do I love about it? I mean, for me, it's like just such a normal part of life. I've grown up with it. It's been always a part of my world. I don't remember a time where gaming wasn't a thing. But really what I've learned to love about it over the years is, one, the entertainment value of it, but two, the social connections, the friends that I've made in these spaces, and even just ways to connect with people in person, or what we in the online world called IRL, which means in real life. But the IRL connections we make with people with a common love for the games that we play and that kind of thing. Like I remember countless times sitting, even at youth group, talking to a teenager that otherwise would not want to talk at all until you put a controller in their hand and you have one in yours and both of your eyes are on that screen. Then all of a sudden dialogue is now happening. And often the dialogue is not about the gameplay at all. That's just the excuse, if you will.
Yeah, that's amazing. And look, I think that there are connotations, wrongly so in my opinion, in Christian spaces of video games, being of the world or violent in some cases. Was that something that you kind of had to navigate growing up playing games? Did you have to feel like you played, mental gymnastics to kind of give yourself permission to play games, or was that not a situation for you?
Not really. I think as a Christian, in life in general, the same principles should apply for you in every sphere of life, whether that's gameplay, whether that's the movies you watch, the music you listen to, all that kind of stuff. There are going to be some things that really aren't helpful, genuinely are unhelpful for people in terms of, if I watch that movie, it'll cause me to sin or struggle. If I listen to that song, it will. And by the same token, gameplay can do the exact same thing because it's something that you're consuming. And for some, watching an action movie is going to be enough to make them feel rage and violence. But for many, that's just simply not the case. It all really depends on the person. And so that's where, what I say to people is a game that might be fine for one person might not be for the next. And it's really important to prayerfully consider things and go, well, what is it that, God has put on your heart in terms of what is and isn't going to be helpful for you, and work within that. Obviously, in our ministry mode and what we do, there are decisions that we make based off the kind of audience that we have. So we go, all right, there are certain games that we aren't going to play and that kind of thing, just because we want to honor that and the people that we have. But for a lot of people, you'll find Christians playing all kinds of games, and there's no real blanket rule on it other than the same blanket rule that we would put on really any other form of entertainment or hobby or passion.
Yeah, fantastic. And we will talk more about your ministry in just a sec. But first, you were a pastor. You worked at your church, as I said in the intro, for a decade. You did the Bible college thing. Yep. Over that time, how has the experience of young people in the church changed? How have you seen that kind of evolve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how I've seen that evolve has been really drastic. And it's kind of what got me into doing what I do, because I was working at my local church, as you mentioned, and I still remember the day I was sitting up in my office and, just continuing to plan for this big youth event that we had coming up and all that kind of stuff. And our church was really helpfully located about 100 meters up from a skate park and a basketball court, i.e. two places that a lot of young people would spend their time. And so therefore, I would spend a lot of my time there as we would connect in with people, and we'd host skate comps and basketball comps, and it was amazing. But as time progressed, what I saw is that there should have, technically speaking, been more people in these spaces because there was more people in the population. There were more people around, yet the number of people I saw at the skate park was pretty consistent from 10 years prior to 10 years later. It didn't go down, but it also didn't go up. And yet, statistically, it should have gone up. And therefore, I was like, hold on, if you're not paying attention, you won't notice it. But if you stop to slow down and think about it, where are the people? And that led me on this journey of discovery as to going, well, actually, I'm noticing, to answer your question as to those differences, I'm noticing a part of our church where after the service, these kids would be running around and playing tips. But today, on a Sunday, when I look in that same corner, one kid has an iPad and they're playing a game on their iPad, and another 5 kids are sitting around them watching them play that game on the iPad, or asking if they can have a turn, or having an iPad of their own. And that's really different from when I grew up, and it's different from most of us. But today's generation, that's very normal. And so therefore I went, well, you know what? If that's the mode that people are now engaging at, then how do we make sure that even in that mode, they are being cared for, that they are getting to understand who Jesus is, that they are getting to experience the fullness of Christian life and all of those things, while they're in the mode that they are inevitably more and more becoming into as internet speeds increase, as technology gets cheaper. Even countries that aren't very well off today actually still can game because it's just become so accessible. And so for me, that was a journey of going, hold on, is this where people are? And if so, why aren't we there? And maybe we should be.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Tell me about the start of this, because you weren't always doing this full time, but yeah. Why did you decide to, I'm going to start live streaming, me playing games? What was the start of that situation like? And what was the kind of thought process behind it, the decision making?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked, because, man, it was a journey and a lot of sacrifice and a lot of, both my wife and I having conversations with each other, conversations with God, and going, what happens here? But the summation of the story was, after identifying what I had just told you about, that more people are spending time in the gaming space, I wanted to back up what I was seeing with real stats and real data. So I did some research, and I quickly realized the number of gamers, which at the time was about 2.6 billion people. Today is about 3.2 or 3.4 billion people.
That's like half the world.
Yeah. The entire world's population is about 7.9, coming up to 8 billion people. So we're talking astronomical amount of people, and that is what is counted as active gamers. So if you are someone who used to play and now you've gotten married and you don't have time and all that kind of stuff, you don't count in that stat line. So what I realized is this is massive. And I'm not the first one to realize it. Every Fortune 500 company in the world out there is trying to tap into this demographic. Facebook have Facebook gaming. YouTube, owned by Google, has YouTube gaming. Twitch, the platform that I stream on, is owned by Amazon. Like everyone's in this space because they're trying to make money, whereas I'm going, hold on, well, shouldn't Christians be in this space? Not to make money, but to make disciples. Like, should this not be a thing. And so at that point, I had never heard of such a concept of, trying to do ministry in the gaming world. What does that look like? And so I thought, you know what? What do I have to lose? I'm a gamer myself. Today, when I get home from church, so, my workplace, when I get home from work, I'm going to do exactly what I would do on another day. I'd turn on my PlayStation and I would game for a bit before I get on with life, right? I need to unwind. It's been a heavy day of pastoral care. I need to do this. So I did. I got home, I turned on the PlayStation, and I did that. And then I thought, you know what? What if today, instead of just gaming the way that I normally would, why don't I also turn on a webcam and live stream this process of me literally doing nothing, just playing my own video game by myself? And I'm like, why would anyone want to watch that? I have no idea. But, what do I have to lose? Again, that was my logic. It was, if I can connect with someone, if someone happens to watch this stream and I can talk to them the same way I would at the skate park or the basketball court, what a blessing that would be. And so I did. I went live. After multiple live streams of no viewers and no one showing up and no harm done because it was the time I had allocated anyway, eventually the viewer number clicked from 0 to 1. And there was someone there that was watching. And it was this powerful moment of confusion, really, of me being like...
What did you do when you saw that one? You're like, did you freak out?
Totally. I was literally sitting there. I'm on my bed, mind you. I didn't even have a desk. Like, I'm sitting on the bed with a webcam that is stacked on a pile of books just so that it's at a higher angle, so you're not just looking at my chin. And sitting there, and that was the shot. It was not fancy at all. It was a dodgy built-in webcam on a dodgy laptop, and that was it. And so I see that this person's there, and after I got over the whole "why is a stranger on the internet staring at me," I then just said, "Hi, random person," because they've got full anonymity, right? Like, I can't see them or hear them. It's not like a Zoom call. They are just typing anonymously in a live chat with whatever screen name they want, and they can see and hear me. I'm the one presenting. They're the one interacting, if you can think about it that way. And so in that moment, after I said hi, they then typed in hi, and, it was just kind of very basic interaction until they said, "Is this what you do for a job?" And I said, "No. Actually, I work at a church. I'm an ordained reverend. I'm a pastor at this church," and then they responded and they go, "Oh, I used to go to church once." "Really? You used to?" "I'm sorry. Wow, that's cool." And they go, yeah, I used to go. It's been 6 years since I stepped foot in those doors, but I used to go. My whole family did. My mum, my dad, like we all went to church. We used to give to the church. We used to serve in the church. We were there for every service, Bible study, you name it. We were so involved, and now none of us have gone in 6 years. And I'm like, wow, okay. Do you mind if I ask I'm just curious, what happened? Like, why? Because, I'm just curious. As someone that works at a church, I'm wondering. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I'll tell you." Because keep in mind, in this moment, this other person knows that they've got full anonymity, right? So they can get very deep and very honest very quickly because they know that their reputation is not attached to that conversation. So that means that they know that I can't call their pastor, I can't call their parent, I can't call their wife. I can't do anything other than have a dialogue with someone. And because of that, it means that people also say, you know what? I can finally ask those questions that I've never been comfortable asking my pastor at church or people that know me. I can voice the struggles that are going on. I can really lay it on the line and just slam my thoughts on Christianity and faith and all the rest because they don't know me anyway, so what do I have to lose? And that's exactly what this person did. They said, here are my problems. And they listed them, and they were like, without, I guess, oversharing, they were talking about a bunch of issues that had happened in their life that they had then experienced the church be silent on, and them go, "We left and no one followed us up. No one chased us up. No one looked after us. We thought that we were going to be cared for, and in reality, we were not cared for." And they also had this misunderstanding of bad things happening to good people and going, if we were Christian, why did God let that happen? And so I got to have this really unique moment to talk to a stranger on the other side of the world, I found out later, and speak into this for the first time in many years to say, hey, yeah, well, can I just say that, first of all, I'm so sorry. Like, I want to apologize on behalf of that church. I'm so sorry that that was your experience. And we got to have that dialogue, and I got to explain a bit about how bad things do happen to good people, but God hasn't abandoned us in that moment. And we got to have this super open dialogue that ended up going for a couple of hours of just one-on-one talking in this really unique mode of them just verbalizing all of these things that they had never spoken to another human about in over 6 years, and nor were they planning to, because in their mind, they've shut the door to the church and they're not walking back in. That's a done deal. The only way they were ever going to get reached was not going to be in that building. It was going to be in their own world, and who knew that that would have meant on a random website called Twitch, which is not a Christian website, it's a gaming website, and they would randomly bump into a pastor in that space and be able to have a genuine conversation. At a later point in this convo, I said to them, I said, do you mind if I pray for you? I know this might sound super weird, but do you mind if I pray for you right now? And I still remember, I've spoken about this many times, and they typed in I guess. And I'm like, okay, we're on. Let's do that. And again, this is pre-COVID, so you don't typically pray via a webcam. It's foreign to everyone. This is I should have said this for context. This is early 2018 that this is happening. So March of 2018 to be specific. So I said, do you mind if I pray for you? They said, I guess. I said, okay. So sitting on my bed, I closed my eyes and I prayed for this person. And at the end, I said, amen. And they typed in amen in the chat. And it was this bizarre exchange. And then they even said something that I'll never forget. They said, I've never seen anyone pray on Twitch before. And I was like, me neither. And yet somehow here we are. And this conversation wrapped up, and my wife was actually working interstate at the time. So I called her right after this stream ended. I called her and I'm like, babe, you're not going to believe the ministry conversation I just happened today. But you know the craziest part? It didn't happen in the time that I was employed to do ministry. It didn't happen during my 9 to 5 working at church. It actually happened afterwards when I was where the people are, and I got to talk to this stranger. And by the end of the conversation, mind you, they said that they were willing for the first time in 6 years to visit a church again and to actually re-engage with this faith that they had lost, because I was able to clarify and bridge some gaps for them, really, and allow for some healing by just taking ownership and being like, dude, that does suck. And I'm so sorry that was your experience. That should never have been your experience. And I hope and pray that other churches in your area won't treat you the same way. And I would really encourage you to give it a go. You know what I mean? And that kind of thing. And so I still remember calling Sarah, which is my wife, called Sarah afterwards. And I was like, there's something in this. I need to keep doing this. There's something in this. And that's where it started, March of 2018. Fast forward, as you mentioned, now I do this full time. Back then I didn't, but I started doing it after work every day. I would get home from church, I would go live again, I would meet another random person, I would share faith with them, and we would move on to the next day and rinse and repeat as the community started to grow and grow and grow. By the end of 2019, at this point, there's about 500 different people that are now following the channel, that are engaging and are doing all that. But you know what comes with that? 500 different people's worth of pastoral care needs. And so what ended up happening is, more than the amazing things that God were doing on the live stream, I would end the stream, I would go to bed, I would go to work, so back to church, I'd get home, and there would be a flood of DMs from people, direct messages into my inbox, and not kids or teenagers. I'm talking like adults that are like, hey, my wife and I are going through a divorce right now. Could you meet with us and help us with some like couples counseling, essentially? Or other people being like, hey, my grandkid is depressed and I don't know how, as their granddad, to deal with that. Could we jump in a call and could you help me bridge that gap between young people and my generation? What do I do here, kind of thing? And just various people from all denominations, from all churches, from all countries, just reaching out and being like, I feel like I can talk to you about this stuff because we've built a relationship over gameplay and hanging out every day online and doing that. And they go, yeah, I really need some help here. And what ended up happening inadvertently is that I would then be dealing with and working through these pastoral care calls all throughout the evening, going to sleep, waking up, going to church, dealing with pastoral care calls all throughout the day. rinse and repeat, and you can see very quickly what that's going to end up doing. There's not going to be any PastorSKAR left, right? And so my wife very quickly picked up on that, and she's like, Kiran, you're going to burn out because this is something that just kind of accidentally happened, I guess. But it's at a point now that there are so many people that are reaching out to you that, you're going to burn out if you're trying to run a full-time ministry at a church, and then also this, which has accidentally become what it is. And she's like, you need to figure this out. And so that started a journey of me going, you know what? I need to. What I ended up doing in short is I booked an Airbnb just by myself in a place called Lura.
I love Lura.
You love Lura?
Yeah, I do.
It's so good. It's so good. And especially because of the experience I'm about to tell you about, Lura has a very special place in my heart. So Airbnb in Lura, I was in the top of someone's attic. And I was there for 2 days, and I fasted and I prayed and I sat with God and I cried and I put pen to paper and I read from God's word, and I really just laid it all on the line. And I said, God, you brought me to this church. You gave me this role. We've seen amazing fruit through this youth ministry. I've grown up in this church. I don't have any reason to want to not do what I'm doing there. I love the work that I get to do at a local church level. But now you've also brought this other thing to me, and I don't know what to do with that. And I felt like God clarified for me that day that he's just like, Parkside, the church that I was at, he's like, Parkside can find another youth pastor. Parkside can find another senior pastor. Parkside can find another pastor that understands how the local church mode works, that they've got that experience, that they understand the interworkings of a youth group, that there are people that are equipped for that and that know how to do that and that can fill that role. But who's in this space? Be where the people are. And I just felt this deep sense of conviction because I knew practically what that meant. Because Parkside would pay me a full-time salary, whereas going home and turning on the webcam would pay absolutely nothing. And yet I was talking to more people and engaging with more human beings and helping them in more direct ways that weren't otherwise being reached through the one that didn't pay. And so that was the journey that, my wife and I, we knew we had our first ever mortgage repayment just about a month away from the time that God is telling me to essentially resign from my full-time paid position. And the way that I word it is I went from doing full-time ministry to doing full-time ministry. I just lost the paycheck halfway through because I've never stopped doing full-time ministry. And to this day, this is still what I do. But it's been purely dependent and funded by God's people from the wider body of believers, not any one church, not any one denomination, but just individual mums and dads and whoever else that go, you know what? The world needs this. And so here's $20 a week, here's $50, here's whatever it might be. Let's try and keep the lights on. Let's try and keep this thing going. And we've been living by faith ever since, really, in just trusting God with what he's got on the next page. We don't know what that looks like 2 years from now, but that's part of that journey that God's had us on. And it's why this matters so much. It matters so much because there are over 3 billion gamers in the world. And for me and for my wife, that's enough for us to go, you know what? Ministry, we didn't get into ministry to get paid, right? No one becomes a pastor because they wants to be wealthy. They do it because of obedience. And I felt obedience, and we felt, obedience in this moment was lay it all on the line and be where the people are, meet people, share God's love, do what you need to do. And that's exactly what we started at the end of 2019, pre-COVID, and what we've continued to do.
Just in time.
Yeah. But and that was the thing. For us, we didn't know COVID was coming or any of that, but God did, right? And, he had been shaping me for an entire lifetime, really, from being a gamer since forever, from serving in so many ministries within the church that in the end, I would utilize all of those skills in what we do here in this space. Before we jumped in this call, you and I were talking about the multitasking nature of what I do. And I'm my own sound guy, my own lighting guy, my own camera guy, my own, I'm the preacher, the MC, the person that runs the games, the person that does the announcements, all packaged together in a live stream that often goes for multiple hours without taking a break. I literally have a foot pedal on the floor so I can zoom in and out my camera as I'm doing right now, just so that you can see it, so that I can go hands-free and continue to multitask. Like, that's the level of insanity that this space is. But the skills that God has given me to be able to do that have also been honed very much so from me serving in the worship team, serving in the multimedia team, from being a regular on the preaching roster at church, from running a youth group and big events and emceeing all these different things. And now I get to really use all of that for God's glory every single day. And it's really quite beautiful.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, honestly, you're doing amazing work. Kiran, how do you look after yourself? Because we've discussed that, this is kind of probably more intense than your local church role, because everyone, or at least everyone that's messaging you, there's a deep well of need there. Yeah. And you're only one person. So Absolutely. How do you deal?
Absolutely. That's been one that's been really hard to figure out over the years. So I've been doing this for almost 6 years now. And in that time, there have been moments where I've looked after myself really well and moments that I admittedly haven't. Where I've come to in that is by having the right support systems around me and having healthy boundaries and going, you know what, I can't reply to messages right now in this moment, or just coming up with methods for the community as a whole to also care for one another. So rather than just, hey, message me your prayer requests, we have an open forum now that we look after that is for people to post their prayer requests, and the other members of the community can see those prayer requests and pray into those situations and all that. So if there's a 24-hour window where I don't get a chance to see that, it's not me sitting here going, but no one prayed for them. I'm like, no, actually many people prayed for them, and their prayers are just as powerful as my own. And really recognizing that. We also have an amazing team of volunteers, people from around the world in different time zones scattered across Australia and other places that are going, you know what? This matters. And so I'll work my full-time job. Some of them are actually pastors in other churches around the world that have said, I'm going to dedicate some of my week to being here and helping with this big picture of what God is doing. And that's been tremendously helpful. The other thing is that we're a registered not-for-profit organization now. So that means that I have amazing structures and accountability systems that are embedded in what we do. There's a board that I report to. There's full accountability in that. They care for me and look after me, and I let them know what God is doing in this space. Like even financially, it's not even like if someone jumps on stream and donates, that actually doesn't go to me. And that was by design. I set it up that way that it wouldn't just be that goes to me, because I never wanted people to question my motives and be like, oh, look at this YouTuber trying to get like a super yacht with his like millions of fans. I'm like, no. That is not me. That is not my heart. It never will be. So instead, from day dot, before there was any money coming through, we set up a system that if anyone donates at any capacity, it goes directly to the not-for-profit organization and to a ministry account that is held by our board that neither me or my wife are even signatories on. And I couldn't do anything even if I wanted to. If someone comes in tomorrow and drops $1 million donation, I don't become a millionaire because I shouldn't become a millionaire. Instead, the ministry would have that, and a small portion of that might be an income for me to survive, but the rest is purely used for the ministry and not for any sort of luxury or wealth. And I love that we set it up that way. But I guess it ties into both accountability, but also as far as the self-care, that also comes hand in hand, because in building these systems, we've also gone, hey, let's make sure that we have this board so that they can check on me. In my board report that I do once a month at the moment, one of the questions that I need to answer is, how are you tracking mentally? Like, how are you doing, at a personal level? It's not just like, tell me all the ministry stories. It's like, hey, Kiran, how are you going? And I'm really honest about that in going, hey, actually, I think I need to take a little bit of annual leave right now because I just need to recharge. Or, actually, I'm doing amazingly and I'm energized by some of these things happening around me. So, of course, it fluctuates as it does with any normal human being. But there are definitely things that we've put in place to really help with that. And just having really good people in my corner, people that I've grown up with, people that I've gone to church with for many years, that we catch up with them for regular dinners and we talk about life and faith and marriage and all kinds of things. And, really being able to do that well, super important. And I would recommend that to anyone who tries to do anything as outlandish as this is. Think about that support system before you need the support system, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's so important. Be thinking about your mental health when you're in a really good place because, so important. Now, Kiran, you've built this incredible community church, I would say, called Skar Fam. It operates kind of a lot like a youth group. If people are just hearing about it for the first time, they're gamers themselves, how can they join? How can they get involved?
Totally. So if you just jump literally on Google and you just Google PastorSKAR, so PASTOR, pastor, not the food, the other one. So pastor, and then Skar is spelled SKAR. And for those of you that are curious as to where that name comes from, it's literally my last name. My last name is Skariah, SKARIAH. That was my original gamer tag, and everyone kept on calling me Skar, so we just shortened it to what they were calling me anyway and slapped my title at the front. So if you just Google PastorSKAR, you'll find us. We're on everything. And when I say we, it's myself that you'll see on camera and that kind of thing. But I say that because we have, again, a team of volunteers that serve in what we do. And it really is a team effort in that way. But yeah, our primary platform is Twitch. That's where I go live, but we are also now on YouTube where we upload different videos that are helpful to people. A lot of like reaction videos to different Christian music that's out there and all kinds of things, which is awesome. But yeah, we're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. If the platform exists, we're probably there. So we're pretty easy to find in that sense. And yeah, otherwise, just Google PastorSKAR. There's also PastorSKAR.com, which is a bit of a landing page that will also send you to all the things I just mentioned. So
yeah, fantastic. Look, the motto, reaching people where they are. And you're right, there are people from everywhere, all over the world, some who will never walk into a church, who haven't walked into a church for years. Some may not even know what a pastor is. Can you walk me through a couple of the stories, maybe one story that's impacted you the most over the last few years?
Oh, that's such a hard question. People think it's an easy question,
no,
but the reason
not.
it's hard isn't because it's like I can't think of a story. It's like, where do I start? Do you want to know the ones from today? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the level of there's so many stories that come through, but I guess one that particularly stands out and comes to mind, just based off something that you yourself said just a moment ago, is of a particular individual. And again, I'm trying to be careful with my words because I don't want to breach their trust by oversharing, you know what I mean? And that's the tricky nature of what we do here. But essentially, this person didn't know what a pastor was. You mentioned there are people that have never heard that word before. This person, when they came into the chat, one of the first questions was, what's a pastor? And we went from that stage of me explaining this and talking about this to them eventually explaining that again, without oversharing, the part of the world that they live in and the particular village or town that they live in is very small, and there is physically no church there. So at one point in the conversation, someone was like, hey, you should visit your local church. And the person who said that had all the best of intentions. And this person's like, what are you talking about? That's not our experience here. And so that was the level of like lack of connection to anything, Christianity wise or faith based in that regard for this person. But our relationship over many years has developed to such a point now that when things go wrong in this person's life, as simple as my mum has a headache, they'll jump into the live stream and tag me and be like, hey, Pastor Skar, could you be praying for my mum because she's got a headache today? And I'll go, yeah, absolutely I will. And that's something that just comes from genuine relationship building over a significant amount of time, of journeying together in little bite-sized steps and demonstrating through my own life what the Christian faith looks like and how we love each other and forgive each other and pray for each other and do the things that God calls us to do. And so, that was one particular story that is really close to my heart because, although I haven't been able to share a lot of the kind of crazy details behind it, God's been really at work in that situation from this particular person in a place that otherwise would be unreached, in the sense that everything that we talk about on stream when it comes to Christianity and faith things, every time I open up the Bible and do any of that, there's plenty of people in the chat that go, oh yeah, I know this story from Sunday school. And this particular person is just like wide-eyed, like, wait, what? Like, what are these stories? Like, what? Tell me more. And like, that's just been such a powerful thing. And that's one of many, many, many interactions that we've had spanning across the globe. There's over 110 different countries in the world that are now tuning in to the PastorSKAR live stream. I can't even name that many countries, but the benefit of an online ministry is all of these stats and data are automatically tracked because it's the internet. Everything is trackable to some degree. And so we can see that there are people in all of these nations that are tuning in. And a lot of those nations are going through some crazy things. There are nations who are currently at war that are tuning in where they can. There are nations that are very much not Christian or that's outlawed, but although a Christian website might not be accessible, a gaming website is. And, you know, just all kinds of really unique opportunities. And even just people going, I just need a break. I just need an escape from the world and for someone to just welcome me and not judge me. We've had people that have told us that they've tried going to churches, but because of the way that they dress or, you know, the color of their hair or their identity, it's made them be immediately treated differently to every, quote, normal, in quotation marks, looking person that comes through the door. And they were like, all I wanted was to go in and hear what this whole Christianity thing was about, but I can't because everyone's staring at me. Or they're talking to me differently, or they're treating me differently, or really entitled Christians are coming up to me and without even getting my name telling me that I should change my life. And I'm not even a Christian, but they're going up to me and telling me this. And people are coming to me with these struggles because they're like, just from a visual, people judge me because of me being who I am. But in the online world, that visual is not there. So you don't get judged off that. You get judged off your character, the way you talk, the way you interact. But that's the thing. So they found that the accessibility point, if you will, was a lot more workable because they were like, I can actually sit in on this sermon and no one's the wiser because of just the unique mode that it is to be doing what we do. And so, you know, a few little mini stories there. But if you want to hear more or even see them in real time, check out the live stream. And it's pretty incredible what God does.
Yeah, and it's incredible what you're doing, PastorSKAR. It has been such an honor having you on Finding Hope today. Thank you so much for sharing just a little bit about your journey. Of course, you can just head to PastorSKAR.com, as you said, on all the socials. You're on Twitch. We'll link all that in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here today.
Again, the pleasure was absolutely mine. And thank you for doing what you do and helping to get word out about what God is doing around the world. You guys are awesome. All the love in the world to you.
Thank you so much to PastorSKAR for sharing his story today. To follow PastorSKAR on Twitch, YouTube, or socials, simply Google PastorSKAR, that is SKAR, and you'll find him. And all of that information is in the show notes. I'm Georgia, and thank you for listening to this episode of Finding Hope. To help this podcast reach more people, you can rate, review, and subscribe, and share it with a friend who might need a little extra hope right now. For now, I'll leave you with this verse. Whatever you do, do it from the heart of the Lord and not for people. You know that you will receive an inheritance as a reward. You serve the Lord Christ. Colossians chapter 3, verses 23 to 24. Catch you next time.
This is a Hope 1032 production. Thanks for listening.